Cat, we're in here now. Are you coming up? Hello, welcome. This is A Rambling Yarn, my podcast where I talk a bit about my knitting, my crochet, whatever sort of crafty thing that I happen to be doing at the time, which tends to be a lot, but try to shrink it down a little bit. If you're a returning viewer, welcome back. Thanks so much for coming back and checking out what I'm up to. And if you just stumbled upon my little corner of YouTube, welcome. I'm glad you're here. This is, let's see, we're filming this in beginning of September. So where I am, which is in southern Maine, the weather has started to cool down a little bit, making my heart go all aflutter because as much as I love summer and those nice long beautiful days and working in the garden and all of that, I am a fall girl. That is my season. So I am excited to start to be able to wear my sweaters and my hand knits, and yay! I'm going to show you today. I have one finished object and a couple of works in progresses, one of which, one work in progress and the finished object I actually mentioned in my last podcast episode, which I think I filmed at the end of March, beginning of spring, sometime around there. They've got a bit of a backstory. If you're interested in that, I'll give a little bit of a briefing on what happened to get me to where I am now. But a more detailed backstory, because that's what was going on at the time, you can find that and hear all about it in my last episode, if that is something that you are interested in. Today I am joined by one of our lovely house cats. This is Pip Pin. He's one of my knitting companions. He and his brother seems wherever the yarn goes, and wherever I am, so are they. So he'll be with us while I talk about some of these things, and I'm sure he'll be in and out. So welcome, Pippin. So the first thing that I'm going to talk about, my finished object, which actually, Pippin, I'm going to remove you so that we don't snag anything. Shoo. This is the Petrichor Sweater, which was designed by Morgan of Morthunder. She designs absolutely beautiful sweaters and hats, and I think she's got a pair of socks or two. She just designs really beautiful and very approachable colorwork patterns. This is the second colorwork sweater that I have made. The first one that I did was the Sanguine sweater, which was also by Morthunder, which I knit up and gifted to my husband and now steal a lot. So this is the Petrichor Sweater. It is knit in DK weight, and I actually, so the main color in the body of the yarn, the main colorway that I used in the body of the sweater, I had actually ordered like a year before this pattern was released because I had just fallen so in love with the colorway that I knew I wanted to have a sweater out of it. Even though I didn't know what sweater that was going to be, I knew it was going to be. So I ordered from Fiber for the People a sweater quantities worth of the colorway Carnival Barker on her BFL base. And then I think sometime around last October, Morgan teased this pattern, the Petrichor pattern, and then it was released sometime early in December, I think. And as soon as I saw even just like the littlest glimpse of what this pattern was going to look like, I knew right then and there That's what this yarn has been waiting for. So I waited for the pattern, bought it the day it was released, and very, very quickly started on what is now my favorite and most prized sweater. So here we go. I'll get a little bit closer. So the body here, so what you see all throughout here, this is Carnival Barker. The little orange polka dots. I believe this technique of color work is called, it's like fleas or something like that, but I find that terribly unpleasant and it makes me itch. So I just like to call them little polka dots because that's, I mean, essentially that's what they are, right? This is the colorway Burnt, also on BFL, also dyed by Fiber for the People. I actually carried it all the way to the end of the cuffs just to kind of tie it in. It shows up really, really well on camera, but in like real life, the orange is rather subtle. So I thought maybe if I just put a little bit on the very end, it would just tie everything together really well. And I think it does. And so the dark purple that we see here in the color work yoke, this is Take Me Home by an indie dyer in Connecticut, which is my home state, and it is on, it's not BFL, I believe it's a merino nylon blend. I love it so much. So that that's the sweater. I will try it on, but oh my goodness, I go into more detail in my last podcast, but I had actually, due to no fault of the designer, the pattern, or really my own, because everybody is made differently. That is the beauty of people, and the beauty of making your own garments is that you can size them precisely to your fit. I had originally knit this up in, I believe it was a size 4. I gauged everything. My swatches were absolutely correct, but when it came down to it, the stitch count when dividing for your sleeves, I had way more positive ease in the body than I had in the sleeves. And I knew after doing the yoke, I knew that the sleeves were just going to be really tight on my arms. And unfortunately, I didn't really figure that out until I had gotten all of the body, including the ribbing, all bound off and all of that. That was all done, and the only thing that I had left to do was the arms. So it's very unfortunate that I got that far, and I did try the sweater on, actually, while I was knitting it. And I don't know if it was because it was kind of being cinched together, you know, on the bottom, while I was knitting it because of having the needles, the cord running through. I don't know what he's doing over there. Did you find a bug? I don't know if that was, if having the needles in there as I was trying it on, if that cinched it together and made it appear like it was going to be tighter on me. I'm not really sure what. I know I didn't lose like a whole ton of weight in the middle of all of it. So that's not it. But by the time I bound off the body and actually tried it on again, yeah, sleeves were too tight for me. Body was way too loose. So I ended up going back. I did a whole bunch of math, knit the exact same size, but redistributed the number of stitches between the arms and the body. And so that was fun. I've never done that before. I hate math, but it was an interesting little look into sizing, I suppose. I have no intentions of starting to design knitwear anytime soon. I think maybe someday that would be really cool to do, but as of now, this is just, it's not a job. This is all for pleasure. The pleasure of having a finished object that I get to use, and the pleasure of getting to actually just play with yarn. Let me crouch down a little bit so you can see. So, here it is. The sleeves, if I'm recalling correctly, the pattern did not call for any decreases in the sleeves. I think until, if at all, I think the your very last row before your cuff. So other than that, the sleeves are just completely stockinette. And because of how I modified my pattern a little bit to accommodate my very large, strong arms, it made the sleeves just a tad wider, a little balloony. But I kind of like that. I like having just a little bit of extra room in here, and I kind of like, it has a little bit of a vintagey look to it. And I did make the cuffs longer than what the pattern called for. I think I ended up doing 2.5 or 3 inches for a cuff, and I'm honestly enjoying how that fits. One of the things that I did do differently the second time around after I ripped the body out was I actually blocked my yoke. Hi. Maybe I should just move my chair back. After I redid the yoke for the second time, I asked my followers on Instagram, which if you're interested in finding me and coming along for the ride visually for my little fiber adventures, you can follow me. It's again at a.rambling.yarn on Instagram. But I asked my followers pros and cons, I guess, if they wouldn't suggest blocking the yoke before continuing on with the rest of the sweater. And an old friend actually said that yes, 100%. Anytime she's ever done a sweater, colorwork or not, she blocks her yokes out. Especially, I mean, if you have a circular yoke, I feel like that's probably pretty easy, but also because it's color work, to actually see it all, see how everything is going to progress and bloom and go together. And I think that actually made a huge difference in just how everything fits and how it looks. I obviously blocked it afterwards as well, because this is, now that I'm thinking about it, this is one of the first whole size garments that I have made out of a natural animal fiber, versus the sanguine sweater that I made for my husband was all just 100% acrylic. That way he doesn't have to worry about whether or not he can toss it in the wash. Because we've had some bad experiences with the wool and the washing machine and him doing laundry. It happens. At least he does laundry. That's all I can ask, right? Just don't felt my knitting. Oh well. The past is the past. So yeah, this is the first garment that I've really made out of an animal fiber. So blocked the yoke, continued on everything, did my math, blocked it again, and here we are. And I am in love. It is wonderful. I would make this again. I would make this pattern again. I feel like it worked up really quickly. You know, little sizing snafus aside. Now I know. So now I know for me anyways. It worked up really quickly. Colorwork wise, I don't think that it was terribly difficult because you're only holding two colors. You've got one contrasting color and a main color. And technically the pattern calls for the same contrasting color that you use in the yoke to also be brought out into the body and the sleeves for your little polka dots here. I just happen to have the three different colors and I liked how they worked up together, and so that was my own little alteration there to what was being called for. So I would highly recommend it. I think I will probably start planning for another one of these at some point down the road, either for me or for somebody else. I don't know. Have to find somebody knit-worthy. But yeah, go check out Morthunder. She has an Instagram at Morthunder. And just go see her beautiful things. They're wonderful. My husband just brought home this new seltzer, and it's, I believe, by Polar, and it's watermelon lime, and it is really, really good when you need to keep yourself hydrated, but you also want a little bit of bubbles and a little bit of flavor. I mean, tea is great. Coffee's my go-to. But this is really refreshing. Polar watermelon lime seltzer. I know not everybody's a seltzer person. I really like seltzer though. Moving on to works in progress. I have one that I've put it down for a while. I kind of just pick it up to work in between things, but not very often. And I am more of a knitter, but I do crochet. Not as often as I used to, but I do crochet. So this is one of those things. A little while ago, I started making my mom a crescent shawl out of cotton. I think the yarn is Yarn Bee, which you can get at Hobby Lobby. I don't know if you can get it anywhere else. But I've recently picked this back up again, so we're starting again. It's very simple. I don't have a pattern for it. It's just kind of that typical crescent shape where you're increasing on one side and decreasing on the other. So it, it grows, but it curves. And it's just got some eyelets just all throughout. It's cotton. So I figured that this is a good, I figured it would be a good fiber to use for, I'm giving it to my mom. Did I say that already? For her, because she could use it winter or summer. She works in an office, so they have the AC on all summer long, and she's a cold lady. She gets cold very easily. So I figured something like this. I don't think I have too much farther to go on it. I'm not planning on making it absolutely ginormous. But I think I need to get, we'll finish up. I have two colors left in this. It was a self color blocking, I guess you could say, self-striping yarn cake. So I've got two colors left on that, and then we'll see how much. I think I have one more of these hiding. I bought a whole bunch. I feel like they've just kind of gone missing. They went through a move. They were another garment before that, then got ripped out and then turned into this. So we shall see. But it's very soft. She's been waiting a long time. But I have picked this up again. This is one of my more mindless projects. Goes by very quickly. Sometimes it just doesn't hold my attention, and that's why I keep tossing it aside and getting distracted. But I think we're there. We're almost there. So yeah, it's just all again, I have no pattern for this. But single crochets and double crochets, I guess depending on what area of the world you live in. That's what you would call that. it's getting it's getting there. I've only ever made one other shawl, which was actually this exact pattern recipe. And yeah, I would really love to find, I love the way they look. I don't know why I don't make more of them, whether knitting or crochet. But I did recently, I purchased, I believe the pattern is called Briolicious by Andrea Mowry, of Drea Renee Knits. And I've never actually done brioche like that before, or really ever. But I've heard that that's a really good place to start. So I might start looking into possibly acquiring and pulling from stash for that pattern. So we shall see. If you have any suggestions on shawl patterns, either knit or crochet, though I do tend to go more towards knit, that is more of my comfort zone. But I am willing to do either or. Let me know. Let me know what your favorite shawl patterns are. Do you have ones that you have made over and over again for either yourself or other people and gift knitting, gift making? If you do, let me know. I want to check them out. So the other big work in progress that I have is a cardigan. This is the Maema Cardigan, Maema, by Pip Pin. And I think the last time I showed this, so my last episode, I had just gotten through nearly all of the increases for the raglan top, and that was like for the second time with that, because at some point I had to tear it all back after nearly completing it and then start it all over again. So by the end of all of this, it'll feel like I will have made like 5 sweaters in roughly as many months, I suppose, just from having to tear everything, frog it all, redo it. So this one, I finished the first sleeve last week. I am now working on my second sleeve. I'm using 2 different yarns, or 2 different colors. This is all 2-ply merino nylon. And this colorway, the variegated colorway, this is called titanium. And this colorway is called peat, as in peat moss. And this is a one-of-a-kind colorway. This one is not. You can find this colorway online. Both are dyed, again, by Fiber for the People. Fiber for the People, Taylor Earle, who is just amazing. She is a color goddess. She does this absolutely amazing thing, which I have talked about before, but she will make beautiful one-of-a-kind colorways by recycling her leftover dye baths and using those to create one-of-a-kind colors, and she calls them Lucky Strikes. And I think that it's just a really cool idea to be very minimal waste, and it's just awesome. So this pattern is actually honeycomb brioche, which is the first time I have ever tried brioche of any kind. It is extremely squishy and stretchy. I am anticipating how much this might stretch and grow during blocking. And I'm thinking, now that I am done, because I split up the colors for the sleeves so that I would have a little bit of a contrast, and I was pulling from stash, so I was trying to just lengthen as much as I possibly could, get as much length out of everything. So I am done with the body, the main color, titanium, and I have just a little bit left. And when I try this on, the ribbing on the body, it ends kind of just like right at my hips. It's not an awkward length, but I would prefer it to be a little bit longer. So I'm thinking, because I have to do this anyways, I am going to put in a lifeline at the bottom, take out my ribbing down here, and try to squeeze another inch or two into the body. And the reason I say I have to do this anyways, I put the ribbing on the bottom, and I am naturally a tight knitter. My gauge is just, it's tighter than what most patterns call for. And I try to be very mindful of this, but it is what it is. And my stitches are always, they're just very snug. Which I should have kept in mind, but I didn't really think about it when I did this, which is done in twisted rib. Don't focus on my face. So naturally, because it's twisted rib, it's going to be a little bit tighter than just doing a regular ribbing. So hindsight, I should have sized up. See, I've been working with size 4 needles, which for those of you who need millimeters, a size 4, 3.5 millimeter. So I just stayed on that when I did this. So I'm thinking I will maybe bump it up to a size 6 to rework the rib. And then, I mean, I bound off like 2 or 3 times because I had to keep going back and sizing up my needles just to have a somewhat stretchy. I just did a really regular bind off because I was thinking that if I did that Jenny's incredibly stretchy bind off or whatever it's called, I have to look it up every single time, but it is my favorite, and I will post it here on the screen. When I use that, which is my favorite for usually the bottom of sweaters and for cuffs and stuff, when it's just laying flat, it's a little ripply because it's got so much extra yarn in it, which makes it so elastic. But since it's a cardigan and it's not stretching and wrapping around my body, I figured that it would probably look a little funny, maybe not lay as flat as I would like. So I just did a very regular, slipping over, nothing fancy, no extra yarn. And I ended up doing that. My final needle size was like a size 8. So yeah, gonna rip all of that out, try to lengthen the body as much as possible. I know it's not gonna be a whole lot, but as much as I can before getting to the dangerous point of yarn chicken. And then size up, I'm gonna guess size 6. And then probably again do the size 8. Or maybe keep a smaller size needle and do the stretchy bind off. I don't know. Thoughts? Maybe? Once that's done though, the pattern does call to do ribbing around, all the way around, not folded over, it's just flat, just a good collar and up and down the sides. So really, I mean, not too much longer. It's a wide sleeve and it is roughly 3/4 length. And I'm almost done. I'm very excited. Very, very excited. So this is where it falls. It's just kind of, it's right there, which, like I said, it's not an awkward length. Like, not at all. I feel like there's a lot of cardigans that end up being right there and kind of hitting. It's like right at my, like, not waist, hip, roughly hip. And like I said, the brioche part is very, it's very squishy and it's very, very stretchy. So, bless you, my cat's sneezing. Bless you. I'm not sure how much I anticipate it growing. during blocking. Not that I have to, really stretch it out, but, I might be able to squeeze a little bit more length just from that. It is all super wash. So, and I really enjoy how these yarns have just kind of blended together. When I faded all my jingly stitch markers. So yeah. I think it's gonna be fine. No matter what happens, I will have yet another sweater that I have made, and it'll be just in time for sweater weather. In between everything, I have been going back and forth on a couple pairs of socks. I am still working, I showed them on my last episode, on the R&R socks by Hey Brownberry. And those are, I finished my first sock, I started the second one, and I am just about to do the heel flap and gusset. Ouch! Don't do that to my leg. My cat's trying to play with the string. I just got stabbed. Ow. Anyways, between that, I've also just been doing just a really tiny, just a pair of shorties, which, I mean, I'm sure you can find so many patterns on Ravelry, probably free, probably, $3 for just, it's your basic ribbed sock. It's like a 3x1 ribbed sock. Heel flap and gusset, like an inch and a half of cuff. I don't know. But these, if I were to write a pattern and name it, I would probably just call them my palette cleanser socks, because, I mean, they're not as simple as just a straight up vanilla sock, but I like how a ribbed sock hugs my foot just a little bit better. So I finished this one last week, I think. Cast it on its mate, which I'm going to be, not too far on it because I've been working on the sweater, but I think I'm going to do it in reverse colors. So this is the colorway Mesa, which I used for the body of the sock, the finished sock. And for the toes and the cuff, I used the colorway Kick Drum, which is really cool. So I'll be using Kick Drum for the body of this second sock. And yeah, just for a little fun. Both of these colorways are on merino nylon 2-ply, and again, dyed by Fiber for the People. And I think so far hers has been my favorite sock yarn to knit with, but I would like to branch out and try some others, but so far this is my favorite. Speaking of shawls, I do not have a pattern in mind, so I'm still going through, but through what I can find on Ravelry. I have this, which is alpaca. It is bulky. Let's see, this is, the brand is Extra, which is 55% baby alpaca and 45% fine merino. And it's 150 grams, so 218 yards from Blue Sky Alpacas. So I have two of these, a black and a gray, that I got these at an alpaca farm when I lived in New Jersey, and I've kind of been waiting to see what I was going to make with them. And then I believe that year I also got this, which is from Lost in Our Backyard Farm. which is merino, faux cashmere, alpaca, and bamboo. And this is 60 yards. I have 2 of these, so I have 120 yards of this. And this is kind of, it looks hand spun. I suppose it's got varying widths in it, but it's roughly, it's also a bulky. So I kind of, and I don't know if I'm crazy, but I kind of would love to have some sort of shawl where I could incorporate the 3 of these. And I don't know how crazy that is. I don't know. But I'm kind of, with fall coming, I'm kind of moving into a cozy shawl wanting phase. So I guess we'll see. I'm holding on to these for a while, but these, I have had them for a couple of years now. Haven't really thought about them much, but recently they've been at the back of my mind, kind of tugging. So maybe soon we'll figure out something to do with these. I felt like this deserved an honorable mention. I found this on Instagram and just was completely enamored. I don't know when I will have time for this, but there is a maker called Frog and Cast. You can find them on Instagram at that. And she designed, if you ever read books as a child, the Frog and Toad books, which me and my siblings absolutely adored as children, and recently my mother actually bought a whole set for my kiddos. And you can find these beautiful little tiny stuffies that you can make. I believe it's DK weight yarn. It's a rather intricate pattern, but I'm so excited. And there is, I'll have to put it up on the screen, but I know there is a yarn company that actually sells kits. The kits do not include the pattern, just the yarn that the pattern calls for. But you can buy both of these things separately and then have what you need to make absolutely adorable little frog and toad stuffies. And I just think that that's really cute. So I may indulge in the pattern, or I may indulge in the yarn kit for myself for my birthday in the next couple months. And I have no timeline on when this will get done. This will definitely be a very selfish project and probably a little bit on the back burner. But I am very excited to, at some point, we'll do a little bit of this. I think that they just will be really cute, made up and hanging around. Lastly, I just wanted to mention, a lot of people do summer reading. I am one of those people. I haven't in a while, but this past year I was able to kind of jump back into it as my kids are at an age where I was able to steal a little bit more time, or even give them stuff to occupy themselves while I sat on the couch and watched them, but also read. And one of the books that I really enjoyed this past summer was The Song of Achilles, which was a very fast read. I won't go and ramble on and on about this one because this podcast is not really about books. It's about yarn. But books and yarn, they can go together, right? They're both cozy things, nice things. Anyways, if you really enjoy Greek mythology, this is a really excellent retelling of the myth of Achilles. And the author, Madeline Miller, her writing is lyrical and poetic. And whether you know anything about the original story, the original myth, I think you will enjoy it anyways. It's just told so beautifully, and I just got so sucked in and I couldn't put it down. So if you're looking for something really fast, it is heart-wrenching though. If you know nothing about this book and you don't want to read something that may rip your heart out, and I am someone who cries very easily, and I knew what happened because I studied Greek myths a lot in school when I was younger. So I was prepared for it. Well, I thought I was prepared for it. I still cried. But it's one of those, if you cry easily, this will probably make you cry. If you don't, it might still make you cry. I don't know. But it's a bit of a tearjerker. But just in case you were looking for something new and you haven't read this one yet, The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. I enjoyed it. And that's all I have for you guys today. Thanks so much for letting me do my rambling. If you have patterns for me, shawl patterns, more sweater patterns, yarn dyers that you just are totally obsessed with, let me know what they are. I want to check them out. Thanks for coming along with me while I got to ramble on about my projects. Until next time, happy crafting. See ya. If you liked what you saw, feel free to hit subscribe, hit the little notification bell, give me a little follow on Instagram. You can keep up with me on my little making journey through all of those things. I really appreciate it. It was great being able to show you what I've got going on my needles. And so until next time, enjoy your crafts. Enjoy the rest of the summer. That is so awkward of me. That's all that I have for you today. Thank you for coming along with me while I got to ramble about my projects and my yarn and my recently finished book. Until I see you next time, enjoy your crafting and goodbye. No, until I see you next time. Happy crafting. See you later. Penny, stop licking your butt. It's gross. We'll wait for the motorcycle to go by. Are you gonna come back up? You can come back up. Well, friends, that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for coming along with me while I got to show you my knitting and my yarn and the patterns that I am going to now dream about Thanks for coming along with me while I got to ramble on about my projects. Until next time, happy crafting. See ya. If you liked what you saw, feel free to hit subscribe, hit the little notification bell, give me a little follow on Instagram. You can keep up with me on my little making journey through all of those things. I really appreciate it. There's cat hair in my mouth. Okay. Toodaloo. TTFN.